Hey guys, my name is Mehmet, and today I'm going to share with you guys my Stanford admissions file. So to start off, the admissions process for any university, especially schools like Stanford and Harvard, are very deep and complicated. And so it's very difficult to predict for any person what their chances of admissions are. And so the best way to really understand how the process works is to read your own file and kind of go through that process. And under the FERPA Act, students are entitled to read their file. So I decided to do that in the fall of my freshman year. And so what I did was I signed up online and they took me to this room and I had like 20 minutes to read the file and kind of jot down any notes I wanted on paper. No phones were allowed. And once the time was up, they told me that I had to leave. And I took my notes and then I transcribed them and printed them out. And now I have them here and I'm going to go through them. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications on to be the first to receive our new content. And without further ado, let's get into my file. So pardon me as I look down to kind of read my file, but at the start, they had a committee prep form. So committee is basically the group of admissions officers that reads through your application and then votes to decide whether you're admitted or not. And on November 27th of 2021, I applied restricted early action as a note. They voted to admit me. So that was about a month after I had submitted my application. So under summary, they wrote, connection of education to science through tutoring nonprofit, HOSA, AAU, national recognition, intellectual vitality, which is IV. And so I'm assuming that was their quick summary of me as an applicant. And if you want to know kind of the stats on my extracurriculars and my awards that I had, click on the top right to see that video. That has all my detailed application information. I'm not going to go through that now. I'm just going to go through my file here. They also said read grid, which I'm not sure what that means. They said read RME, which stands for roommate essay, and then EC slate, which is extracurricular slate. And so basically they said read my roommate essay and my extracurricular activities, because I'm assuming that's where I made the most impact. They also said read family context, which is important because everybody has, their own context and kind of where they come from. And I'm assuming that they thought mine was interesting, so they said read it. So now we're going to go into the two readers that read my application. And just as a summary, for each application, you have two readers, reader 1 and reader 2, and they each give ratings. So let me give a quick rundown of the rating system that each Stanford reader uses on your application. And it's a numerical rating system with 6 different categories from about 1 to 5. And so 1 is like the strongest applicant. It's the best score you can get. And 5 is like the worst, meaning you're probably not going to get admitted. And just as a reference, I'm going to put on the screen some of Harvard's ratings. And then they had very similar categories to Stanford. And looking at the percent of applicants that got put into each rating, you can see that 1 is like very difficult to get into, and only like the top 1% get a 1. The categories that each Stanford admissions officer uses are high school rigor, which is graded on a 1 to 5, support, which is your letters of recommendation, your extracurriculars, your self-presentation and intellectual vitality, which is basically how much of an intellectual vibe do you give off, on how much do you care about your learning, and then your test score, and then an overall rating, which is like kind of like a final, rating for you as an individual. And so generally students who get a rating of 1 are automatically admitted because 1's very hard to get. 2 is also generally like admitted. And then once you get into the 3s, then it's like you're starting to kind of get into the crapshoot. So let's start with my first reader's comments. For the ratings that they gave me a 3 in high school rigor, which I thought was surprising considering that I thought I took a pretty competitive course load at a pretty competitive school. They gave me a 2 in support, which is my letters of recommendation, a 2 in my extracurriculars, a 3 in my SPIV, which is my self-presentation and intellectual vitality, and an overall score of 2. So that is my first reader's ratings. So under their summary, reader 1 said, Mehmet is interested in education and biology, created an impressive one-on-one tutoring platform and YouTube channel with significant reach. But they also said SPIV overproduced. Under extracurriculars, they said that Connect Me, which is my free tutoring nonprofit, had recognition from a senator, which is notable. They also said depth and breadth in school community going up, given significant research hours during the school year. And to be fair, I did have to drive 30 minutes every day my senior year to go to the lab at the University of Michigan. And so that was very time consuming, and I'm glad they thought that was notable because it was pretty exhausting. Under notes about my SPIV, once again, that's self-presentation and intellectual vitality, reader 1 said, personal essay on my academic games YouTube channel, which is my other channel, and my essay add depth. They also say insight into impactful ventures. Under NME, which I'm assuming they're referring to the essay on community and belonging, they said I talk about my youth inclusion and honoring my Turkish heritage, which was very important to me, and my high school kind of revolved around my culture as well, so I'm glad they wrote that down. Reader 1 also says, all essays show a different side and make an argument for him at Stanford. So just an argument. And they also say, not sure POE will emerge from pool, worth considering. So they're kind of on the fence about me. And then the other funny thing was that they mixed up my mom and my dad's jobs. They said my mom was an engineer and my dad was the architect. And it's actually the other way around. So I thought that was funny. I don't know if this had any actual impact on my application, but I just thought it was kind of a laugh. And so that's all that Reader 1 said in all of their comments. But Reader 2 gave me a much more positive outlook. So that's my first reader. Going into Reader 2, they were more enthusiastic than Reader 1, and they actually wrote that down on the note. They said more enthusiastic than R1. So I'm assuming Reader 2 read what Reader 1 said. That's what this implies. Reader 2's ratings for me were a 3 in high school rigor again, a 2 in support again. For extracurriculars, they gave me a 1, which was probably the tipping point in why they thought I should be admitted, because a 1's very hard to get. They gave me a 2 in SPIV, which is 1 below what Reader 1 gave me, and their overall rating was a 2+, which is a little bit better than what Reader 1 gave me. So Reader 2 actually thought I was a stronger applicant than Reader 1 did. They said the connection of education and science for him, and already working on that through tutoring platform, is notable. Agree that there are unique skills and some of parts that help elevate this file, one to consider. So again, they use the word consider. So these aren't definitive notes. These are just notes that readers are going to say, and then when they move into committee, they make the final choice. So additional notes that Reader 2 wrote were that EC, lots of research, co-founding / founding initiatives, and first violin and state youth orchestra elevate this further. Under EC, they said, lots of research, co-founding / founding initiatives, and first violin and state youth orchestra elevate this further. Under SPIV, they wrote INT parentheses 333. I don't know what that means, but they wrote it down. They said it talks about STS, which is the major I put myself under, science, technology, and society. Interest mostly in that convo, but writing talks more about connection between science and education and Mehmet's desire to bridge the two. They also said creative roommate essay. And my roommate essay, I think, was very unique. It was very different. They definitely could have not liked it and said, what is this guy doing? But maybe I'll read my roommate essay in the future. They also put my school profile down. So like what the ethnicity proportions were, what percent of the school goes to 4-year versus 2-year college, and also what percent of the school is domestic versus international. So I'm assuming those had an impact. Going further, they also had a test category, which I'm assuming is the ACT that I submitted. And they gave me a 1 in that, which means that I did very good in their eyes. And I got a 35 and a 36 super score, so I'm assuming that's enough to get you a 1 when you're applying to Stanford. My interview score was a 333, so I'm assuming that my interview had 3 categories that they had to rate me on, and they just gave me a 3 in all of them, so I'm assuming I was kind of an average applicant to them. And I still got in, which shows that your interview maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought it does. Interview notes, my interviewer took some notes and said that I had strength in planning stuff. My weakness is exposing things on first try, and they used adjectives to describe me, which were audacious, empathetic, and caring. So this is interesting. I don't know how he got that, but I guess a 1-hour call can tell you a lot about somebody. And then finally, they had some terminology that I did absolutely not understand. They said ETH, maybe that stands for ethnicity. They said 5/5M, and then they said PRI, and then they said 5M. I don't know what that means, but it's also there. But yeah, this is basically my admissions file. My letters of recommendation, I was not able to read that because I had waived my right under the FERPA Act to read those, to keep it confidential for my teachers. But overall, I'm not very surprised by my admissions file. Like, I knew that my free tutoring nonprofit and some of the advocacy work that I've done for Turkish Americans was my strengths in my application. And I knew that if anything was going to get me in, it was going to be my extracurriculars, which clearly they understood because my second reader gave me a 1. I was surprised by my high school rigor. It shows that even if you go to a public school that you think is competitive and you take a bunch of APs like I did, and you do good in them, they still might put limits on how high your score can go because I only got a 3, even though I took a very rigorous curriculum. And maybe a better school that has harder classes and less grade inflation would be eligible to get 1s and 2s in the high school rigor category. And if I was you, my advice for you would be to focus on something that you're really, really interested in and develop it deeply. They wrote about my nonprofit because they thought it was really impactful. And so if you can do something impactful that'll get their attention, because they go through this very quickly, then maybe you'll have a better chance of getting those 1s and 2s that you want to get into the school. Anyways, thank you guys for watching my video on my admissions file. This is basically it. I hope this helped you and can help you develop a stronger application. Remember to like the video and subscribe. Also, hit that bell to turn on notifications so you're the first to receive our new content. We have tons and tons more coming. I know we've been inactive for a little bit, but we are starting back up and we're going to be, pushing out more and more content to help you guys. So please join our family and we hope to see you guys later. Bye.